All clear.
Beep beep. Oh, that.
We are now departing Space Center Houston and heading towards NASA's Johnson Space Center, the home of mission control for over 50 years. In 1961, NASA was granted funding for a new field center that would eventually be known as the Lyndon B. Johnson Space Center. As you can imagine, many cities were interested in becoming the heart of human spaceflight. NASA eventually selected Houston, Texas because of its established infrastructure and large engineering sector. Welcome to NASA's Johnson Space Center. One of the main goals of JSC was to create a more advanced mission control center. Throughout the Mercury program and up through Gemini 3, everything was launched and controlled out of Cape Canaveral, Florida. However, NASA was expanding rapidly to meet President Kennedy's challenge to land on the moon by the end of the 1960s. With future expansion in mind, NASA decided to separate the launch pad from the mission control. This new facility officially opened its doors on April 9th of 1965. The first flight controllers at JSC were eager to tackle the new task of sending humans into space. However, 1960s technology was very limited. The 5-idea 8 computers took up an entire room, weighed over 2,000 pounds, but their memory cores were only 8 megabytes each. To put that in perspective, that's about 8 photos on your phone. Now, off to the right is the George W.S. Abbey Rocket Park. This area was dedicated to former JSC Director George Abbey in 2021, who also served as the Apollo spacecraft assistant manager. The building you see on the right houses the Saturn V rocket. Saturn V is a type of rocket used during the Apollo program to bring our astronauts to the moon. The rocket inside of this building is the only remaining flight-certified Saturn V left in the entire world, and it's made up of pieces from the 3 canceled Apollo missions, Apollos 18, 19, and 20. And now, just outside of the Saturn V building, you can see 2 mock-up rockets on display from early U.S. space history. The shorter rocket with the red top is a model of the Mercury Redstone rocket. It was initially designed as a ballistic missile. The Redstone was later repurposed by NASA and carried their Mercury capsule into space. Next to that, on the yellow scaffolding is Little Joe 2, which is a rocket used to test the Command Module's launch escape system, which is a tall tower structure on top, as well as the parachute system, which would later be implemented into the Apollo program. Now, this tour will not be making a stop here at Rocket Park. If you're interested in our Rocket Park tram tour, it is free, no reservation needed. All you have to do is get in line. Now, during our tour, you may notice deer and other wildlife on campus. That is because JSC is also a wildlife preserve, with more than 250 deer living here, as well as other animals like rabbits, turtles, and even alligators like Like some you think that NASA, his name is an acronym because it stands for Main Attention Shutoff. So if we're driving throughout the campus today, make sure you keep an eye out for any wildlife you might see while on tour. And coming up ahead of us and on the right is Building 45, also known as the Project Engineering Building. Back in the 1960s, this building led the design, construction, and coordinated activities with other NASA centers and contractors. Additionally, this building housed the Office of Operation for Spaceflight Programs, specifically the Gemini missions and the Apollo spacecraft. The location of these offices here represented the programming hub of human spaceflight. Building 45 also housed the Mission Evaluation Room, which provided real-time engineering support for the Mission Control Center in Building 30, and it housed one of two mainframe computers. Today, Building 45 houses one of JNC's on-site libraries, filled with thousands of ebooks as well as many original JNC documents, such as mission transcripts. Coming up shortly to the right of the track is the Christopher C. Kraft Jr. Mission Control Center. It was named in 2011 to honor the first flight director for American spaceflight. In addition to developing the entire concept of control and studying control room, Christopher Kraft served as one of the lead flight directors during the Mercury program and the head mission operations for the Gemini and Apollo programs. This building controlled early spaceflight missions beginning in 1965 with the Gemini 4, and it's still being used today for the International Space Station and commercial crew programs. Now, because we'll be entering an active government building as well as a real historic Apollo mission control room, we have a few guidelines to discuss before heading inside. If you have any large or heavy bags, backpacks, purses, food, and drinks including water, these are not going to be permitted inside of the viewing room. You can either leave them here on the trail or the designated area we have inside of the building. Because the room is restored with all original material, please be mindful of your surroundings while inside of the room. Please do not touch the silver ashtray that may be on the backs of some of those seats, and we do not allow feet to be
We're going to go over some quick information as well as get you guys introduced to where you're at right now. At this moment, you're sitting inside the authentic VIP viewing room that is used by the family of the astronauts as well as the news, the media, and the press. All of which were allowed in here under the one condition: they would not bother the families in any way, shape, or form. You see, back then the press wasn't like horrifically invasive, but they did ask a lot of questions and take a lot of photos at every single interval. Many of the photos and the transcripts which you've seen with your own eyes. For this reason, this room was seen as somewhat of a safe space, as a matter of fact, for the families to gather around and watch their loved ones up on the big screens that you see here, as the flight controllers took care of them by the data monitors. Now, speaking of the data monitors, ladies and gentlemen, if you look past these windows, you'll see everything that Mission Control has. These data monitors are connected to a very large and very impressive series of computers located over at the RTCC portion of Mission Control. Now, RTCC is an acronym. It does stand for Real-Time Computational Center. It kind of speaks for itself in this case. It is the home of the computers and likewise allows the computers to have enough space and electricity demand to operate as needed. Now make no mistake, despite their impressive size, they could only hold up to about 8 megabytes of information each. Now for perspective's sakes, that's about 8 photos on your phones at best. Ladies and gentlemen, back then, these were the impressive computers. These were the computers that were top of the line. They're not like data centers that we have nowadays where we just keep stacking them and stacking them. These were it. And they really couldn't do everything needed to actually land on the moon, which forced our flight controllers to use the next best, most impressive computers available for mankind's history, brains. They would sit inside those chairs that you see here and work with the tools at their availability, which were the pens, the pencils, the slide rulers, the stopwatches, and of course the healthy addiction to cigarettes back in the 1960s. You know the ones, the Marlboro Reds. In fact, all those cigarette butts that you see down there are real and authentic and were actually smoked by flight controllers. Now, before we get started, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go over some quick rules real quick. They're nothing boring, I promise. They actually tie into the history of this place, so you'll learn a little something too. These signs are incredibly important. I can't stress this enough. They do pertain to these surfaces and those surfaces up there, and they cover the ashtrays on the back of the chairs as well. They say, please do not touch. We have it for a pretty good reason, too. Everything inside this room has been restored to its true and original authentic self since 1965 with the opening of the Gemini 4 missions. That makes everything inside this room authentic to 1965. From the carpet that you have your feet on right now, to the chairs that you are sitting in, to the ceiling alongside its ventilation and lights, to the wallpaper around you, the telephone booths, the security booths, and of course Mission Control itself, everything in here is original to that very era. And of course, per National Historic Landmark Guidelines, Johnson Space Center Guidelines, Space Center Houston Guidelines, amongst others, we are seeking to preserve this to the best of its abilities for many generations to come and enjoy just like you guys have. So when it comes to the authentic mahogany mid-century modern surfaces, just make sure that we're not touching them, putting stuff on them, leaning on them, or even looking at them the wrong way. They're very fragile. We don't want them damaged. Same goes for the ashtrays on the back of the chairs. They were used by the families of the astronauts back then, and we're pretty protective of that, and plus, no one's going to be having a cigarette here anyway, so it's like, don't use them. So please don't touch. Last but not least, a very simple rule of them all. We love photos and we love videos. In fact, we encourage them to the best of your abilities and help you have as many as you wish. However, we do not like flash, and the equipment down there especially hates flash, for a pretty good reason too. You see, a lot of the equipment that's down there still relies on old-fashioned petrochemical film to keep everything lit up. And as you know, with petrochemical film, if it has too much light exposure, it eventually starts to wear down a little bit, and wearing down a little bit turns into a lot into excessive into complete damage, thus damaging the equipment that's down there. For this reason, since we're protective, we want to ask everybody to keep their flash off at all times. If you're not sure if your flash is off and you're just a little bit nervous, no problem. What you can do is you can take a photo of the ground real close just to test to make sure. Nothing bad will happen there, I promise. Likewise, you can take a video if you want also. And if you're still not 100% certain, you can come see one of us and we'll be more than happy to help you out with turning off the flash. That's everything we need to cover, so once again, I will be your Mission Control host, Cooper. It is a pleasure to meet you on this fantastic afternoon. We'd like to welcome everyone back to July 20th, 1969, with the Apollo 11 descent as we truly experienced it.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Gene Kranz. I would like to welcome you to the historic Mission Operations Control Room. I served as the flight director during the descent and landing of the first American astronauts on the moon. In 2019, this room, from the consoles with related flight documents and artifacts to the carpet, wallpaper, and mission medallions, was restored and preserved to the Apollo era. Even the viewing room seats you are sitting in are original, as are the telephone and communications booths and the simulation control room. The large screens at the front of the room display trajectory data, which we use to control the spacecraft. The clocks above the screens helped us to keep track of mission milestones, including how long the rocket engine fired, and loss of radio signal times as the spacecraft moved behind the moon. And the two viewing room televisions to your upper left and right displayed historical network news coverage as it was broadcast. You're about to be transported back to the afternoon of July 20th, 1969, as Apollo 11 astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin descended to the lunar surface. 4 teams of flight controllers worked around the clock in support of a mission, monitoring every aspect of the spacecraft life support, fuel levels, altitude, and communications. On that day, my team was responsible for guiding Lunar Module Eagle to a safe landing on the moon. You will hear our voices and the voices of the astronauts as we encountered a series of unexpected computer alarms. This is the Apollo 11 descent, just as we experienced it.
Roger. Filters go. Count filters go. Altitude 5,200 feet.
Okay, all flight controllers, go for landing. Retro.
Go.
Fido.
Go.
Guidance.
Go.
Control.
Go.
Telcom.
Go.
GNC.
Go.
Econ.
Go.
Surgeon.
Go.
Capcom, we're go for landing.
Eagle Houston, you're go for landing. Over. Copy, filter go. I understand. Go for landing. 3,000 feet. Shot alarm. Bravo 1. Bravo 1. Roger. Same time, we're go.
Same time, we're go. Flight. Okay,
We're go. Same time, we're go.
Flight Fido, right on. Real good. Roger.
2,000 feet. Into the ag, 47 degrees. Roger. Okay, keep me in 47 degrees.
How's our margin looking, Bob? It looks okay. We got 4.5. Roger.
Eagle looking great. Your go.
235.
Filters go. 5-0.
Altitude up in there. Looks good. Roger.
Select flight on page tag. Roger.
1,400 feet, still looking very good.
You have it. We have another 1202 alarm. Roger, don't play. Roger, 1202, we copy it.
How you doing, Control? We look good here, fine. All right, how about you, Telcom? Go. Guidance, you happy?
Go.
Fido. Go.
We have another 1202 alarm. 21 down, 33 degrees. 100 feet down at 19. 540 feet down at 30, down at 15.
15, huh? Okay, I hold.
I think we better be quiet.
Raj. Okay, the only call-outs from now on will be fuel.
150 feet down at 4. 36 and a half down. They're tagged on horizontal velocity. 300 feet down, 3.5. 47 forward. Hold up. On 100.
Yo, AGC. Go. Program 66, did you copy? Yes, we did. No, we're good. I'm good for you, but we can't talk for that. I understand. We're not missing.
Every shadow out there. 50 down at 2.5. 19 forward.
Okay, Bob, I'll be standing by for your call-out shortly.
8.5 down. 220 feet. 15 forward. 11 forward, come down nicely, 200 feet. 4.5 down. 5.5 down. Filters go, 5. Copy. Roger that. 160, 6.5 down. 5.5 down. 9 forward.
Low level. Low level.
620 feet. 100 feet, 3.5 down, 9 forward. 5%. How many bite? Filters go, 5. Copy. Okay, 75 feet. Guys looking good, down a half.
60. Raj.
6 forward.
60. 60 seconds.
60 seconds. Filters go, 5. Lights on. 6. Down 2.5. Forward. Forward. Hard copy, Chuck. Good. 40 feet down, 2.5. Picking up some dust. 30 feet, 2.5 down. Face shadow.
Stand
4
by for
forward.
30.
4 forward, drift into the right low.
30. 30 seconds.
30 seconds forward. Good. Okay. Hey. Contact light. Okay, engine stop. APA at a descent.
Touchdown.
Function go both auto, leave the engine command override off.
How's that?
Take that arm off.
Fantastic.
413 is in.
I do it every day.
I don't.
Good, yeah.
We copy you down, Eagle. Houston,
T1, stand by for T1.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot. Thank you. You're looking good here. Okay, we're going to be busy for a minute.
Approximately 6 hours after Eagle landed safely on the moon, the flight controllers prepared to receive the first television transmission from Tranquility Base. Along with millions around the world, we watched in suspense as a man from Earth prepared to take the first step on another celestial body.
We're getting a picture on the TV. That word is, have you had a good picture? There's a great deal of contrast in it, and currently it's upside down on our monitor, but we can make out a fair amount of detail.
Edward Telcom Thundering, first picture. Stand by, we're working on it.
Can you confirm that your reverse switch is in the proper position? Upside down.
We are in reverse.
The oxygen temperatures are coming down, look good.
Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now.
You take a 10-second look, you just stepped on all of that. Okay.
Okay, I just checked, getting back up to that first step. It's not even collapsed too far, but it's adequate to get back up. Roger, we copy. Pretty good little jump. Buzz, this is Houston, F2, 1/160th second for shadow photography on the sequence camera.
Neil's running about 1700 now.
Okay. At the foot of the ladder, the lamp footbeds are only depressed in the surface about 1 or 2 inches, although the surface appears to be very, very fine-grained as you get close to it. It's almost like a powder. Down there, it's very fine.
FOC TV network.
Go ahead, that works.
Switch to another station or something.
Right, we're looking at honeysuckle now. It's a little bit cleaner.
Okay.
And step off the lamp now.
Get a time here. 28 18.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Upon exiting the lander, the astronauts' positions were constantly tracked by mission control back rooms, and those movements were projected on the large front room display for flight controllers to monitor. Next, you will see, as we did, Armstrong and Aldrin reveal a plaque on the lunar module ladder, which remains on the moon to this day.
For those who haven't read the plaque, we'll read the plaque that's on the front landing gear of this lamp. There's 2 hemispheres, one showing each of the 2 hemispheres of Earth. Underneath it says, "Dear men from the planet Earth, first set foot upon the moon, July 1969, BP. It came in peace with all mankind." It has the crew members' signatures and the signature of the President of the United States.
After erecting the American flag on the moon and spending time adapting to the 1/6 gravity, Armstrong and Aldrin received an unexpected communication.
Something rather important is coming up here.
Neil and Buzz, the President of the United States is in his office now and would like to say a few words to you. Over. would be an honor. Go ahead, Mr. President. This is Houston out.
Hello, Neil and Buzz. I'm talking to you by telephone from the Oval Room at the White House. And this certainly has to be the most historic telephone call ever made from the White House. I just can't tell you how proud we all are of what you have done. For every American, this has to be the proudest day of our lives. And for people all over the world, I am sure that they too join with Americans in recognizing what an immense feat this is. Because of what you have done, the heavens have become a part of man's world. And as you talk to us from the Sea of Tranquility, it inspires us to redouble our efforts to bring peace and tranquility to earth. For one priceless moment in the whole history of man, all the people on this earth are truly one. One in their pride in what you have done, and one in our prayers that you will return safely to earth.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a great honor and privilege for us to be here representing not only the United States, but men of peace of all nations, and with interest and a curiosity and with a vision for the future. Honor for us to be able to participate here today.
And thank you very much, and I look forward, all of us look forward to seeing you on the Hornet on Thursday.
Look forward to that very much, sir.
After 21 and a half hours on the lunar surface, Armstrong and Aldrin rendezvoused with Command Module pilot Michael Collins in lunar orbit, returning to Earth and splashing down safely in the Pacific Ocean 3 days later. Working under the command of Mission Control, a fleet of naval helicopters from the USS Hornet were sent to retrieve the Apollo 11 crew.
This is George H. here on the Blue Fellas. And while the chopper is bringing the crew back to the carrier, I'd like to make a couple of comments. First of all, I think you all know that the events taking place here today represent the culmination of the tremendous Apollo effort initiated by President Kennedy. I think your personal dedication and professionalism displayed here in Mission Control have contributed very substantially to the posture that this country enjoys today in space exploration. As a personal expression of our gratitude for your help, your cooperation and tolerance over the years, General Phillips and Chet Lee and Tom McMullen and I have left in custody with Flight Director Gene Kranz a small token of our esteem and thanks. Lots of luck, and don't choke on the bubbles.
After 18 days in quarantine here in Houston, the Apollo 11 crew toured the country and the world as America's heroes. Many of my Mission Control personnel and I flew 6 more lunar missions from this room, which contributed to the designation of this building as a National Historic Landmark. We thank you for visiting today.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, in just a quick moment, we will have some photo opportunity lights come on to help you take a fantastic photo of what we have here at Mission Control. Now, before we get started with that, we're going to go over a quick little bit of a system. Nothing too complicated, of course, just some quick stuff. So if you guys aren't interested in any kind of photo or video, or you got all the photos and videos that you want, the exit will be in that direction right over there where that nice little red sign is that says exit. It'll be from where you guys came in from, actually. What you'll do is you'll make your way towards the stairwell, make your way back downstairs, through the lobby, and back to your original spot.
You want to try to get center? Just get her back. Or you want to do the right angle in person? I forgot. You said it was $1 per person. $1 per person. I charge by the minute.
You take pennies?
I got a nickel.
Nickel and razor blade, that's really good in this economy.
Well, yeah, people are heading out, so we'll wait.
We'll take a picture in a minute if we don't go too far.
In 1969, the success of the Apollo program proved that humans can journey beyond our planet and land on another celestial body. However, the public quickly grew disinterested in the Apollo program. People thought that the program should end since America had already won the space race. Yet, scientific research on the moon still had to be done. NASA continued the Apollo program and landed 6 more successful missions on the lunar surface. This led to scientific breakthroughs and incredible stories of space flight. One of these stories is widely considered NASA Mission Control's finest hours. As the 1970s rolled in, NASA intended to send a third mission, Apollo 13, to land on the moon. With public interest at a low, NASA saw these missions as a routine part of their agency's life. However, 2 days into the mission, their spacecraft was shaken when an explosion happened outside. To their horror, the crew knew their spacecraft was crippled after seeing oxygen venting out into space. With over half the oxygen depleted and all fuel cells shut down in the explosion, the lunar landing was no longer possible. Using the lunar module as a lifeboat, flight controllers were able to save the lives of those 3 astronauts and bring them home safely. Apollo 13 is considered a successful failure. They were not able to land on the moon, however the crew made it home, which is the primary goal of any mission. In 2021, NASA celebrated the 51st anniversary of this mission with the dedication of a bronze statue in the George W.S. Abbey Rocket Park, depicting the Apollo 13 crew exiting the helicopter after splashdown. The last Apollo mission, Apollo 17, flew in 1972, and it marked the end of NASA's initial lunar mission. Apollo 17 was one of the missions where NASA used the lunar rover so that astronauts could travel farther distances. It also included the only trained geologist to travel beyond low Earth orbit, Dr. Harrison Schmitt. This mission collected the most lunar samples out of all the Apollo missions. These samples are still being studied here at UAB. The actual Apollo 17 capsule and some lunar rocks collected from this and previous missions are in Starship Gallery back at Space Center, Houston. Now over 50 years since the last Apollo mission, NASA is preparing to return to the moon and beyond with the Artemis missions. So much of what we learned from the Apollo missions will be used as foundation for the next great adventure into space. Up on the left is Building 17, which houses NASA's Orion Project Office. Orion is a capsule that NASA plans to use during the Artemis missions to return American astronauts to the moon by the 2020s and take them to Mars by the 2040s. Orion's design builds upon the success of earlier Apollo spacecraft, sensitive, reusable, and can receive upgrades over time, rather than be discontinued after a single mission. Artemis 1 launched on November 16th of 2020. 4 different nations as of May of 2023. International participation is governed by the Artemis Accords, which is a practical set of principles to guide space exploration cooperation among nations participating in lunar exploration. With these partnerships in place, NASA will be able to send more astronauts to the moon of different genders and nationalities. In fact, during our return to the moon, NASA will have a woman set foot on the moon for the first time in human history. To realize its ambitious goals, NASA will be using a powerful new rocket called the Space Launch System, or SLS, to carry the capsule and cargo. SLS, like Orion, will receive upgrades over time to make it one of the most advanced rockets in use. Like the Saturn V before it, it will carry astronauts into lunar orbit. Now, as we're passing by Rocket Park, the size of a life building can give you a size estimate of the Saturn V rocket. The SLS is slightly smaller, but it does have more lift capability. Once again, this tram will not be making a stop here at Rocket Park, but if you're interested in taking one of our trailers to Rocket Park, they are free, no reservation needed. All you have to do is get in line.
Alright folks, please remember to keep all arms, legs, feet inside the chair.
Now, coming up off to the right-hand side of the tram, you'll be able to see some of the world-famous longhorned cattle. These magnificent animals are native to Texas, and they're part of a program which is run by the high school students.
Yeah. My brain stopped. There was once where I zoned out this whole road, and I didn't realize until I was already at the tunnel.
Off to the left, you'll be able to see the first stage of a Falcon 9 rocket from our friends at SpaceX. This first stage is entirely reusable, and it flew 2 separate resupply missions to the ISS in 2017. Next to that is a mock-up of the Space Shuttle Independence on top of a real Boeing 747 shuttle carrier aircraft. While the Independence is a mock-up shuttle, the Boeing 747 beneath it is the actual shuttle carrier, ferrying several shuttles across the country on no fewer than 155 separate occasions. From landing sites in California and New Mexico, back to Florida in preparation for the shuttle's next launch. In a very exciting time for human space exploration. If you've enjoyed your NASA tram tour today, we hope you can come back in the future. Now at this time, I'd like to ask everyone to check their seats and surrounding areas to make sure you have all of your personal belongings with you. Now once this tram comes to a full and complete stop, please exit off the right-hand side of the tram and the right-hand side only, making your way towards those sliding doors.